President Biden, as a human being, is no longer capable of executing the duties of the commander in chief. So the White House found out that I was speaking to Shannon Bream, and they called me the night before and said, "You're one of the president's most loyal supporters. We know you're going to stay loyal." And as someone who's watched The Sopranos and is a huge Godfather fan, I mean, it just sounds like something. It just sounded like mob speak almost. Like, it's a nice position you have there. It'd be a shame if you lost it, kind of.
The countdown comes amid a new bombshell report from the Wall Street Journal highlighting the 46th president's rapid decline in recent years, interviewing nearly 50 people around the president. Now, administration officials detailing how he would grow, quote, tired if the meetings went long and would make mistakes. At events, aides would repeat instructions that should be obvious. For example, how to enter or exit a stage. The report reading, quote, "Presidents have always had gatekeepers, but in Biden's case, the walls around him were higher, the controls greater." According to Democratic lawmakers, donors, and aides who worked for Biden and other administrations, there were limits over who Biden spoke with, limits on what they said to him, and limits around the sources of information he consumed. His administration has denied Biden has declined. To get an inside look, we are welcoming in Lindy Li. She's a DNC Finance Committee member who has ties to the Bidens. Lindy, thank you for making the time tonight.
Natasha, thank you for having me.
And I know you take this seriously. You personally know President Biden. What is your reaction to this report?
It's just further confirmation for what we've known for years. And I tried to sound the alarm in July, and I was attacked then. So there's definitely an echo chamber on this matter and a closing of ranks. People don't want to hear the truth, and it's extremely devastating. It's devastating in so many regards, because President Biden, as a human being, is no longer capable of executing the duties of the commander in chief. And also, we kind of have a shadow presidency of his inner circle of people. Well, I don't want to get crucified again, but there are certain people around him, his senior advisors, who are essentially running the country.
Tell me more about this. What did you observe that prompted you to come forward earlier in the year? I know there is a part of this piece that talks about the president not being able to answer free-ranging questions. And I want to bring this up. It says at some events, the Biden campaign printed pre-approved questions on note cards and then gave donors the cards to read the questions. Even with all these steps, Biden made flubs, which confounded the donors who knew that Biden had the questions ahead of time. So I know you hosted the president back in May in D.C. Is that when you noticed some issues?
No, I knew before. Actually, you mentioned no cards. That's actually a good scenario. Under most circumstances, he didn't take any questions at all. I remember I did a fundraiser for him here in Philadelphia in February of 2023. And the system that you just outlined was the one in effect, where they had pre-approved questions, and only those people who were loyal members of the firm, so to speak, were allowed to ask questions. That was case number one. But on May 1st at the Mayflower in DC, I remember the family member that I brought to the event was actually angry at me because President Biden did not work the rope line and he did not take any questions. And we had raised, I think it was $1.1 million for the event, and he didn't answer any questions, and we weren't allowed to ask. And so it was very surprising, and that family member had actually flown across the country for this, so he kind of felt.
Where was the backlash? Where was it coming from?
The liberal leftists who are attacking me now. The same people, the same group of people I've lost tens of thousands of followers this week. I've been called a number of names I won't repeat here, simply for stating the truth and asking questions about how the finances of the Harris campaign were handled. It's the same bunch of people who attacked me in July. I went on Fox News Sunday on July 21st. I remember that day because a few hours later, President Biden stepped aside. Honestly, I can't believe I'm sharing this, but the day before my Fox News Sunday interview, somebody from the White House called me. And I don't know if people know this, but before Fox News Sunday and Meet the Press interviews, they're all, the day before, they're all listed in Politico. So the White House found out that I was speaking to Shannon Bream, and they called me the night before and said, "You're one of the president's most loyal supporters. We know you're going to stay loyal." And as someone who's watched The Sopranos and is a huge Godfather fan, I mean, it just sounds like something. It just sounded like mob speak almost like, it's a nice position you have there. It'd be a shame if you lost it, kind of.
Did you perceive it as a threat when they said that?
It was the friendliest threat possible.
My initial disillusionment became clear when I realized that they burnt essentially set $2.5 billion on fire. They raised $1.5 billion through the campaign, another billion through the super PAC Future Forward. And there's been no accountability. We still haven't gotten any answers as to why Oprah, a billionaire, got $2.5 million through her production company. Why couldn't she pay for it? She's an oligarch. She could have just paid for the production costs herself. And not to mention the fact that they spent $450,000 putting Kamala Harris's face on the sphere. Now tell me why that would be helpful. Tell me how that would help her win. Obviously that was utter failure. And then they spent $500,000 essentially bribing Al Sharpton moments before he interviewed her. And this is our hard-earned money. This is the money that I worked so hard to raise. I raised millions of this, and donors are feeling burned. And let me tell you, although I might be the only one coming forward, I haven't met a single donor who disagrees with me. And they say they're not a cult, but look at how they behave when one of their own dares to think for herself. The excommunication, the defamation, the public shaming, the boycott campaigns, the psychological terrorism. I no longer have comments on any of my social media because it's just too much. I don't need that. It's just endless. And as soon as you step out of line, they will get you. Sure. So this is all happening really quickly for me, but you might see me at the inauguration. I don't want to say too much right now, but somebody on Team Trump already reached out to me. They've been incredibly gracious, and on day one, they were kinder to me and more humane than the DNC ever was.
Wow.
And I just think that speaks volumes, yeah.